I'm one of the rare alphas diagnosed with pheromone perception disorder. I feel nothing towards omegas, only my alpha roommate's pheromones can soothe me. Until I overheard him explaining to a drunken childhood friend. Carter's a broken alpha, can't even get pregnant. Always clingy. It's just double A fun. You think I'd actually be with him? Dylan. Are you mad? You do care about me. My symptoms flared up. The torment was unbearable. And he didn't even look at me anymore. I finally broke and called his uncle. I agree to your terms. Please. Help me. A soft chuckle came from the other end. Took you long enough to figure out who really knows how to handle you. 1. When Thomas walked in, I was curled up on the bed, clutching Nathan's shirt and breathing in the fading scent of his pheromones. The room was dim. He nudged the door shut with his foot and stared directly at my miserable figure on the bed. TCH. Why do you look like a damn stray? He mocked me lazily, but didn't take a step closer. Still, I could faintly smell the sandalwood pheromone in the air. That unique scent of an Enigma. It was even more soothing than Nathan's. My mind blurred. I tossed the crumpled shirt aside, stepped barefoot onto the floor, and lunged at him like a feral dog. I slammed him back against the door. So desperate. He caught my waist with one arm and murmured by my ear. I tried biting his gland through his clothes, but the layers of his suit made it impossible. I gave up and started yanking at his collar. Just as I touched his skin, he grabbed my wrist. Give it to me. The air was thick with the bitter scent of my tea-infused pheromones. My throat was dry, my body burning up. If I didn't find relief soon, I was going to lose it. Thomas unhurriedly loosened his tie and tied my wrists together in front of me. So I'll take that as a yes to my conditions. He lifted me effortlessly and tossed me onto the bed. His sandalwood pheromone flared from his gland, and my own scent clung to it like it had finally found its anchor. As his suit came off, I bit into his gland again, but it did nothing. He chuckled softly, pulling me into his arms. Did you forget how I used to take care of you? Don't move. Let me handle it. 2. The sound of the doorbell woke me up. Instinctively, I looked to the side. Thomas was gone. Only his jacket was left, still in my arms. My entire body ached. That bastard, still as rough as ever. I slowly dragged myself out of bed and opened the door. Nathan walked into the dorm without even glancing at me. Fine. Whatever. I climbed back into bed, ready to catch up on sleep. You okay now? Nathan sat down beside me, looking at me like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. I kept my eyes closed and didn't answer. But he didn't stop. He grabbed my hand and leaned closer. Still mad? Look. You know I've liked Dylan since we were kids. It was wrong of me to avoid you recently. But I've thought it through. From now on, whenever you're in pain, I'll be there for you. Okay. I shoved him away and sat up. The suit jacket slipped into his view. He frowned and picked it up. I leaned back against the bed frame, watching him silently. This jacket. I've seen it before. He squinted, examining it. But I snatched it away. Really? Where'd you see it? Maybe on that long-lost uncle of yours you just found after years of searching. His face froze. He pointed at the jacket. Stunned. How the hell do you have my uncle's jacket? I smiled. Lips barely curved. Because he forgot it here after we slept together last night. Silence. Nathan's face twisted in horror. You slept with him? Well. Of course, he only knew Thomas had been brought back home. He had no idea that Thomas had been my antidote all along. I was born an alpha. But at 16, I was diagnosed with a condition. Pheromone perception disorder. Omega pheromones feel toxic to me. The scent alone makes me nauseous. In severe cases, I could even go into shock. Only a few alphas, and enigmas, have pheromones compatible enough to relieve my symptoms. But enigmas are extremely rare. So my father combed through orphanages and handpicked Thomas for me. He was younger than me. An alpha too. But his pheromones were a perfect match. He stayed by my side through every episode. Almost until adulthood. Then 3 years ago, he went through a second differentiation. And became an enigma. In the Empire, enigmas aren't found in the lower class. He had to be from a noble family. After digging around, we found out. He was the long-lost son of a prominent house. I had just started college when they brought him home. He was immediately sent abroad after being found. During another flare-up. With no one else around to help. It was my classmate Nathan who took me to the infirmary. Coincidentally, his pheromone was also sandalwood, just like Thomas's. Highly compatible with mine. In a haze, I bit into his gland. I wasn't thinking, I just wanted to survive. And he didn't resist. He simply held me and soothed me gently. It's okay, Carter. If you ever feel like this again, come to me. I'll be there. I believed him. He pulled some strings so we could be dorm mates. He stayed by my side through countless sleepless, fevered nights. He even promised my parents he'd take care of me for life. I thought he'd always be there. Until a few days ago. I caught Nathan pinning a new transfer student against the wall. You were drunk last night and called out my name all night long. Dylan. You still have feelings for me. Carter's just a broken alpha. He was a fun distraction. But Dylan. All these years, I've only ever loved you. I froze. That's when I realized Nathan's heart was never really with me. So when my symptoms returned again, he suddenly became a man of restraint. Wouldn't even spare me a trace of his pheromone. Just turned and walked away. I took injection after injection of suppressant. Nothing worked. With nowhere left to go, I bit down my pain and burning. And called Thomas's company. 3. When did you and my uncle get together? That doesn't make sense, he's been abroad these past 3 years. Nathan gripped my wrist. Visibly trembling. I found it funny. Just moments ago, he was talking to me like his double timing was something helpless and pitiful. But now he looked like his world was crashing down. Seeing the frustration all over his face, I couldn't help but curl my lips into a smirk and let out a soft chuckle. You actually believe that? He had no idea about the history between Thomas and me. After all, if people knew that the only enigma had spent over a decade as a warm body at someone's beck and call, and not just anyone, but an alpha, it would surely damage his family's lofty reputation. But more than that, I never wanted to use Thomas's past to shame him. Really? Nathan pressed. Still unwilling to give up. I finally threw the jacket at him and lazily rolled onto my side. He came to see you and accidentally left it behind. Just as I finished, a knock sounded at the door. I thought it was Thomas coming back. But when Nathan opened it, a delivery man asked, "Is Mr. Carter here? You requested moving services." Of course, it was Thomas's doing. I thought he'd give me some time to prepare. Turns out, he was done waiting. You're moving out. I nodded and glanced around the room. Just some daily stuff. Nothing valuable. So, I stood up. Yeah. As you can see, I've recovered. I can manage on my own now. Thanks for everything these past few months. I turned to the driver. Not much to move. Let's go. As I stepped forward, Nathan grabbed my wrist. Why not stay? What if you relapse? I'm the only one who can help you. When I didn't answer, he gripped my wrist tighter. Your family's not what it used to be. Stay with me. And maybe there's still hope. Don't leave. Your father's still in the hospital. You and your family, you need me. It sounded like a plea. But the warning behind it was loud and clear. I slowly pulled my wrist from his grip and calmly asked, "Is Dylan okay with that too?" He hesitated. Then finally let go. I followed the driver downstairs. He motioned for me to get in. I was about to open the front passenger door. But he told me to sit in the back. In the cargo area. I did as he said. And he locked the door behind me. From the dim back of the truck came the sound of slow, steady breathing. I cautiously stepped forward. Suddenly, my leg caught on something. And I stumbled forward. I thought I was about to faceplant. But instead, I landed on something soft. A bed? Before I could even figure it out, someone scooped me off the floor. The faint scent of sandalwood lingered in the air. No doubt, it was Thomas. He held me tightly in his arms. His warm breath brushing against my ear. It tickled. It felt good. Thomas. What the hell is this? 5. To say I didn't like Thomas, I'd be lying even to myself. But when he was sent overseas for 3 years, things got ugly. He started putting pressure on my family's company. Openly and behind the scenes. My father, already worn out, suffered a stroke and fell into a coma. What was once a respected family name collapsed almost overnight. In order to survive and care for my dad, I became like a begging dog at Nathan's side, clinging to whatever scraps of kindness he'd throw me. I thought that was how the rest of my life would go. Then, Thomas returned to the country. He'd been with me for 10 years. I couldn't believe he felt nothing from me. So when I relapsed again, I called him. I had nothing left to lose. So I gambled on him one more time. I didn't expect it. But he came back just like the mad dog he always was. I crooked my finger. And he actually showed up. I thought his terms would be some kind of humiliation. Back then, he was my shadow. I was spoiled. Always lashing out at him. But the only thing he asked was for me to leave Nathan. 6. The back of the truck was quiet. Thomas didn't say a word. He just held me like that the whole ride. When the truck finally stopped, he spoke. "I've already arranged for a top doctor to treat your father. From now on, I won't make trouble for your family. If you relapse, call me. I'll come immediately." The truck door opened. We were at the public hospital. He gently let go of me. But I didn't move. "What's wrong?" he asked. I coughed awkwardly. "My leg's numb. Wanna walk up with me?" 6. Continued. I never expected Thomas would actually go up with me. In the ICU, a new specialist was conducting a consultation. My father lay in the hospital bed, hooked up to tubes all over. I'd seen this scene 100 times. And it still tore at my heart. "Dad! I'm here. Look who came with me." Thomas stood beside me and called out through the glass. "Uncle." Ever since Thomas came to our home, my dad treated him like a son. Sometimes, even better than he treated me. That was why I'd always vent my anger on Thomas. But looking back now, he saved my life. I had no right to be jealous over something so petty. "Don't worry. I'll make sure your dad gets justice." His voice caught me off guard. Justice? Coming from Thomas, that sounded ridiculous. "Don't bother," I nearly shouted. "I just want my dad to get better. That's all I care about." Thomas looked at me, stunned. Then sighed softly. "There's a procedure overseas now, pheromone extraction. Starting tomorrow. They'll extract mine for your use. It can be stored for up to 3 months. Carter, I know there's still a wall between us. It's okay. I'll wait for you." He turned and walked away, without even giving me a chance to say no. Pheromone extraction. I'd seen it on the news. The procedure was still experimental. Extremely risky. It could permanently damage the gland. Some even lost all function. They said the first test subject had been an Enigma. He volunteered. Because the one he loved had pheromone recognition disorder. And he couldn't always be there. 7. The next day in class. Evan, my long-lost best friend, finally showed up after what felt like 800 days. He was a beta. But oddly enough, his taste leaned toward alphas. The second he saw me, he wrapped an arm around my waist. I flinched in surprise and quickly pulled away. "What are you doing?" Evan rolled his eyes at me in annoyance. Scratching my head. I gave him an awkward smile. He rubbed his hands together. Clearly up to something. "So, you and Nathan broke up?" I nodded. He practically jumped for joy. "Then does that mean I get a taste now?" I was speechless. His logic had always been uniquely chaotic. The warning bell rang. I ignored him and walked toward the middle rows. Just as I was about to pull out a chair, a white blur rushed past me. Looking down, I saw Dylan smiling sweetly from the seat. "Sorry. I got here first." Evan rushed over. Clearly annoyed. But I quickly grabbed him. Dylan was Nathan's golden boy, anything connected to them I tried to steer clear of. I turned to go sit elsewhere, only to find every seat conveniently taken. Every time I moved toward one, someone would sit down just before I got there. "What's the meaning of this, Dylan?" Evan snapped, glaring at him. But Dylan only had eyes for me. "What do you think? I was jealous you got to be with Nathan. Now I'm getting revenge." I didn't expect him to say it so bluntly. But in a way, it was a relief. He got it off his chest. And this made my break with Nathan even more definitive. "What kind of revenge?" I asked calmly. Dylan scanned me up and down, his gaze lingering on my collar. "I heard your gland has defects. I'm curious, what kind of pheromone gland gets someone that hooked? Why don't you peel off the patch and let the class see for themselves?" Someone grabbed at my shirt. Evan stepped in to block them. But being a beta, he wasn't strong enough to hold them off. I pulled him back and caught one of the hands reaching toward me. "Don't forget," I said coldly, tightening my grip. "Even with a damaged gland, I'm still an S-class alpha." My tea-scented pheromones spilled out, instantly suppressing the lower-ranked alphas around me. Dylan's expression changed as he stumbled backward, unable to breathe under the pressure. I didn't say a word, just watched him being crushed by the scent. When the bell rang again, I prepared to retract my pheromones. But in the next moment, an overwhelming storm of sandalwood pheromones flooded in, swallowing mine completely. I recognized it instantly. That familiar scent. Thomas. It had once soothed me night after night. Now, it stood fiercely opposed to me. 8. Nathan shoved me hard and stormed past to hold Dylan in his arms. With Nathan's arrival, the rest of the class quietly slipped out. But my gland, overstimulated by his scent, started to swell and burn. I knew what was coming, an episode. "I'll get you out of here," Evan whispered, trying to support me. I nodded and turned to leave. But Nathan unleashed his pheromones again, pressing down on me like a vice. "I didn't say you could leave." He was a top-tier alpha. I stood no chance. The burning in my gland got worse, unbearable. Finally, I broke. "I'm sorry. It's my fault. Please, let me go." Trembling all over, I collapsed to the floor, desperation swallowing me whole. My dad was still in the hospital. I couldn't fall apart now. I had to stay alive. At least until he woke up. "Leave?" Dylan stood again, smug as ever, and looked down at me. Evan stood in front of me protectively. "You sick freak. He's already suffering." Nathan frowned and motioned for someone to drag Evan away. I looked at the clock, class time had already passed. Which meant no one was coming. Today. I was just meat on a chopping block. No use resisting. Fine. But from now on, let's act like we never knew each other, I said firmly. Nathan's eyes lowered, and he gave a soft nod. Dylan bounced over to my side, practically chirping like a bird. I closed my eyes and bowed my head, exposing my neck. His fingers moved toward the patch covering my gland. But the moment the scarred gland came into view, Dylan screamed. A knife had flown past me and pinned his shoulder to the wall. His white shirt quickly soaked red. The knife had landed dangerously close to his gland. His mouth hung open in terror, staring toward the door. I turned as well. Thomas was running straight toward me. 9. He barreled in like a storm, throwing people aside to reach me, wrapping his arms around me. He released his pheromones. It was also sandalwood, but richer, deeper, far more potent than Nathan's. As an enigma, his presence dominated the room. In seconds, all of Nathan's lingering pheromones were washed away. I gasped for breath, finally pulled back from the edge of collapse. Nathan. Thomas gently passed me to Evan, then turned and walked toward Nathan and Dylan. Dylan looked terrified, completely overwhelmed by the Enigma's power. But he still clung to Nathan like a frightened rabbit. Thomas. What do you think you're doing? Nathan shouted, holding Dylan close. Thomas didn't respond. He stood tall, even taller than Nathan, his eyes sharp and cold. Nathan looked rattled, trying to keep his composure. But Thomas raised his fist and drove it straight into his face. The blow sent Nathan stumbling back, his cheek instantly swelling. Thomas rolled his wrist, his meaning crystal clear. Forgot your manners while you were abroad? What do you call me? Nathan clenched his jaw, then muttered reluctantly, Uncle. Evan's jaw dropped. He had known me for years, he'd seen Thomas around. But back then, Thomas was just my silent bodyguard. No wonder he was shocked to find out that bodyguard was actually a young master. Thomas swept his gaze across the room. His eyes promised retribution to everyone who had laid a hand on me. Then he picked me up, holding me tightly as he strode out. Nathan suddenly shook off Dylan and rushed forward, ignoring the pain in his face. He stared at me, then forced a smile at Thomas. Uncle. He's my alpha. We've slept together. I'm the only one who can stabilize him. It's not right for you to take him like this. Thomas looked at him like he was an idiot. You? An alpha? You're not worthy to call him yours. 10. When Thomas had Evan escorted out, Evan was still visibly shaken. I patted his back, promising to explain everything to him later. Only then did he nod firmly and whisper, Make sure you take precautions. I pushed him into the car. Turning back, I saw Thomas looking at me with a slight awkwardness. Apparently, he had heard everything. Thanks for today, I said, awkwardly changing the subject. Our last conversation hadn't gone well, and I wasn't sure how to face him now. He seemed to sense my discomfort and responded naturally. The car door was open, almost inviting me in. But I hesitated, unsure whether to follow my heart. Their family was one of the top in the entire empire. Even if the patriarch was aging, he would never allow his heir to be involved with a sick alpha like me. If that happened, my situation would only get worse. Thomas didn't push me to get in, he quietly shut the door and had the driver leave. His gaze lingered on me, sticky and tangled, but restrained. Here. For you. He handed me a small bottle. I caught a faint trace of sandalwood in the air. He had really extracted pheromones. Hold it steady. Don't drop it, I can't extract for you a second time right now. He gripped my hand, as if trying to prop himself up. Coming closer. I noticed sweat soaking his back. And blood seeping through his gray t-shirt. Thomas. I called anxiously. He shook his head and collapsed into my arms. I'm here. Young master. Please don't leave me. 11. I rushed him to the nearest hospital. The doctors hesitated to touch his scarred gland. What happened? He extracted pheromones and is still releasing them. He's risking his life. We can't treat this here. I can only give him a temporary bandage and recommend he go to the general hospital. I nodded quickly. Eyes on Thomas's gland. Countless scars crisscrossed the area, old wounds layered on new ones. The sight was grim. Sitting beside him, I reached out to wipe the sweat off his face. A deep voice stopped me. Carter. It was a voice both special and intimidating. No need to look, I knew who it was. The old man. Aaron. Though I feared him, I still gently wiped the sweat from Thomas's cheek. Aaron sighed and had the door closed. The room fell silent as he sat in his wheelchair, pushed to Thomas's other side. Carter. May we talk? Even at my best, I'd never had a chance to speak with him. During the 3 years I was with Nathan. No matter how badly Nathan caused trouble, Aaron never approached me. But Thomas had only been back a week. And Aaron was already involved personally in his youngest son's affairs. It's an honor to speak with you, I said, turning to him. Aaron's eyes flickered with momentary surprise but quickly calmed. He took Thomas's hand, tears welling in his eyes. I made a grave mistake losing him back then. His older brother was slaughtered trying to find him. I owe this child so much. I cannot watch him fall apart. Carter. You should be grateful. He's protected you all these years so you could live. You're smart enough to know some things in this world are beyond your reach. I stared at Aaron. Words caught in my throat. Indeed. I was a terrible person, doing whatever it took to survive. Sleeping with uncles and nephews alike. I'd barely clung on till now. Stealing whatever time I could. I should be grateful. What do you want from me? He pulled out a card and handed it to me through an assistant. The gilded cover meant unlimited funds. Far more generous than the public thanks my family had received when they helped find his son. So tempting. Such largesse. I murmured. He smiled like a ruler. Then gave me a tablet. I swiped through profiles of many alphas, each matching my pheromone type. Scent stripping. I assume you know about it. These are the alphas I carefully selected for you. Every year one will be your donor, ensuring your survival for the rest of your life. How about that? I've shown my utmost sincerity. Now please keep your distance from my son and grandson. I handed the tablet back to the assistant, keeping only the card. No donors needed. This card is enough. Once my father finishes surgery, I'm leaving. At most. Within a month. I stood and gave Thomas a final glance. Aaron's eyes mocked me, as if saying, even a scumbag like you has the nerve to think of others. But the toll of pheromone stripping on the body was huge. I didn't want anyone to almost die because of me again. Anne. Thomas. Farewell. 12. My dad's surgery was scheduled. I was also processing paperwork to go abroad. If there was anyone left in this city to say goodbye to, it was Evan. I invited him to a Western restaurant, the upscale place he'd begged me to take him to 800 times. I ordered the signature dishes and even added 2 piano pieces playing in the background. From the moment he arrived, he kept staring at me, muttering that something felt off. I took a deep breath. It was time to tell him everything. So, you're leaving the country. When will you be back? Which country? Bring me something cool. Not coming back. I stuffed a bite of steak in my mouth, unable to look at him. Not coming back. He raised his voice, shocked. But when he saw my expression, he awkwardly scratched his head. All right then. Once you settle down, I'll come find you. I nodded. He stuffed a huge mouthful of pasta in and leaned close. Eyes spinning. Here's some big news, Dylan's gland is wrecked. After we left that day, Nathan went crazy, forbidding anyone from taking Dylan to the hospital. And as expected, Dylan's gland is totally ruined. Karma's a bitch. I said nothing. Just listened carefully. Nathan was stubborn. He wanted everything, both control and loyalty. But more than anything, he wanted to keep Thomas under him. In short, you leaving him was the right call. I agreed and we chatted excitedly, ordering another bottle. We talked about everything until we were both drunk. And I finally sent him into a taxi. As the car pulled away, he suddenly grabbed my hand. Carter. He muttered something I couldn't quite hear. His voice low and trembling. But his hand didn't want to let go. The driver grew impatient. This place isn't for parking. Let's go. Evan finally loosened his grip and shouted through tears. Carter. Don't die. I'll come find you. They don't want you. But I do. 13. After sending Evan off, I watched the car disappear down the street, feeling an emptiness in my chest. Maybe we'd meet again someday. I stood on the sidewalk for a moment, then headed straight to a nearby taxi. People's Hospital. Please. I slumped into the back seat and closed my eyes. About 10 minutes later, I opened them and realized the taxi wasn't headed to the hospital. Driver. You're going the wrong way. I'm going to the People's Hospital. Sitting up. I looked at the driver, under the cap. His face was oddly familiar. Dylan? I was stunned. Evan had said his gland was ruined and that he was resting in the hospital. A sneer escaped him as he locked all the doors. Carter. You ruined me. I can't go after those people, I'd lose, but I'm not afraid of you. Are you going to pay with your life? He drove crazily through the city streets. Though traffic was sparse at this hour, he still crashed into a van. The van's body pitched forward on impact. The windshield shattered, glass scattering inside the cabin. Dylan's arm was cut, blood dripping down his skin, an alarming sight. Dylan. Stop. You're risking your life. The collision wasn't enough to stop him. The van's driver got out, but Dylan spun the wheel and sped in the opposite direction. Carter. I am risking my life. Without my gland, I'm nothing. Nathan won't want me anymore. This is all your fault. He'd lost his mind. I clutched the seatbelt. My only option was to call the police. Thankfully, the cops arrived faster than I expected. Don't resist. Pull over. Dylan. They tried to box him in several times, but he escaped each time. I held the phone while the officer reassured me. We've set spike strips within 100 meters. Hold on, don't provoke Dylan. I stayed silent. But Dylan laughed. Carter. Don't you smell the gunpowder? I looked beside his right hand, and saw a fuse. Do you think he can stop me? I shouted into the phone. There's a bomb in the car. He flicked a lighter, igniting the fuse. The flame quickly consumed most of it. He hummed happily. Carter. I made the fuse a bit longer on purpose. How is it? Exciting to wait for death? Exciting my ass. I yanked at the door handle, but it was locked tight. Sweat poured down my face as I reached to put out the fuse. He suddenly released the wheel and bit my arm. Pain shot through me, and I instinctively leaned back. Suddenly, a black car slammed into the front of the taxi, pinning Dylan in a corner. Through the glass, I recognized the driver. It was Nathan. The tire exploded. The crash stunned Dylan. The driver's side was nearly crushed. Without hesitation, Nathan opened the door and pulled me out. The fuse was barely a dozen centimeters from the explosives. Dylan. Dazed. Looked at Nathan struggling to save me. Reaching out weakly. Save me. Nathan. I'm stuck. It hurts so much. Nathan ignored him. I searched for the fuse. But the explosives were hidden under the seat. And the fuse was already burnt through. Run. Nathan dragged me away fiercely. Dylan's face was covered in blood. Watching us leave him behind in despair. For the first time. He was afraid, struggling desperately. Save me. I don't want to die. Mom. Dad. I don't want to die. I was wrong. The explosion echoed through the city. Nathan shielded me as it detonated. When it was over, he slowly rose from on top of me. Are you okay? I shook my head and started walking away from the blast site. Once I reached a safe distance, I asked in confusion, why did you save me? He seemed to forget the recent harm he'd caused me. Scratching his head, he grabbed my hand. I thought about it. I actually can't live without you. Dylan tricked me, he kept saying you were using me. But after dealing with him, I realized he's just scum. Trying to use me to control them all. Nathan's words became more passionate, he even tried to pull me into his arms. I turned away. Dodging him. He froze. Silently retracting his hand and instead offering a gentle apology. I was wrong. Please forgive me. His eyes were like a puppy longing for its owner's forgiveness. But if you looked closely, there was a desperate edge beneath the plea. He wasn't really seeking forgiveness, it was his rebellious reaction to seeing Thomas take me away. To him, I'd always be an object. I lowered my gaze and walked away. He followed closely. Until I shouted at him loudly. Don't come after me. I'll never choose you or Thomas. When I looked up again, it was Thomas. Standing there in hospital clothes. Staring at me blankly. 14. Dad's surgery was successful, he was in recovery. Only Evan came to see me during that time. He asked which country and city I wanted to settle in. Honestly, I hadn't decided yet. Dad was nearby. Chatting with him. They talked about all kinds of things. Like when we were kids. At dusk. Evan left. Giving me countless reminders not to give up treatment wherever I went. He even recommended a city. Saying there was a wizard there who was very good at treating gland diseases. I clutched the pheromones Thomas had left behind. Forcing myself to promise him. But I knew my illness was incurable. Just being with my dad was enough. 15. In the end, I couldn't persuade Dad and went to the city Evan recommended. Slovenia. A nice place in South-Central Europe with a comfortable climate. I booked the ticket and quietly sat at the gate with Dad. He sighed and took my hand. Son. Thomas is a good kid. I watched him grow up. If you don't want to leave, you could stay. No. I interrupted him numbly. Thomas was good. But I was beyond saving. I couldn't get past myself. It's all my fault. Dad choked up. If not for taking care of me, you wouldn't have. But son, I'd rather have died long ago than see you die. I squeezed his hand gently. Don't worry. I won't die anytime soon. Besides, what if the wizard Evan told me about actually helps? Even I wasn't convinced by those words. The boarding announcement came over the speakers. I helped Dad slowly onto the plane. After everything was settled, I looked back at the shrinking city and closed my eyes. When the plane landed, I texted Evan to say I was safe. He told me to rest well. And I planned to take Dad sightseeing nearby first. The air was fresh. And the city had a beautiful sense of history. After almost a month of touring, I saw the news. Aaron had stepped back behind the scenes. And the family was fully under Thomas's control. The articles boldly described Thomas's past but barely mentioned Nathan. I was basking in some glory myself, such is the way of the world. Losers leave the stage quietly. Before I finished reading, Evan called. He didn't mention Thomas. Only urged me to hurry to see the wizard. Looking at the remaining pheromones I had, I wasn't in a rush. So I stayed home with Dad a little longer. Until the pheromones were gone and I started feeling uncontrollably ill. Then I left. Dad. If I don't come back, don't look for me. I turned my back without waiting for a reply and rushed out the door. Following Evan's directions, I arrived at the small town of Pyron. Through crooked alleys, I found a shop with a stairway leading down to a basement. Faint flames flickered on the walls. I slowly descended and saw a figure in a black cloak waiting. He motioned for me to come inside and sit. The dim candlelight cast shadows over his form. There was something familiar about his build. He lowered his voice and asked in the common tongue, "Boy, what do you seek?" I replied sincerely and calmly, "I ask you to cure my illness." He reached out and placed a hand on my gland. I expected it to be aged and withered, but it was surprisingly young. "Your illness can be cured." He grasped my hand tightly in his palm. Then slowly removed his hood, revealing a tired but secretly pleased face. I was stunned, staring at the youth before me for a long moment. Thomas released pheromones, easing my pain. "But the antidote is me. Are you willing to accept me?" END.